decisions mean we cut off options, which is why decisions are so infrequent today. Long ago, an ancient book, and I've referenced it on this podcast, or at least another one. I reference it to clients all the time. An old book, quote unquote, 2000, Good to Great.
Mm-hmm.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that style of book,
Right.
But I'm such a fan of, there's a couple books, The Road Less Traveled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of that whole book.
Mm-hmm.
And Good to Great, I'm a fan of, in a similar way. The opening sentence the authors put in both of those books, I'll never forget.
Life is hard.
Life is hard.
Yeah.
The Road Less Traveled, it needs to go on because that book's just rich.
Mm-hmm.
Good to Great could have stopped at the first line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not to say the book's not good.
Yeah.
I would say that book is good. It is not great. Which is funny.
Funny, yeah.
That's funny. But do you remember the opening line to that one?
No.
See, it's not that good.
Yeah.
Right? The opening line is good is the enemy of great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And man, so true.
Yeah.
And so distractions are one of the greatest limiters of us becoming great.
Mm-hmm.
We can lead really good lives, really good work while being distracted.
Mm-hmm.
We can be a really good athlete and be somewhat distracted.
Mm-hmm.
We can be a pretty dang good entrepreneur and be somewhat distracted. We can be a pretty good manager, individual contributor, and have a lot of distraction going on, but we can still be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Keep our job. We can even be a pretty good husband, pretty good father, and really be still looking for hacks and distracted a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very possible to do because we have so many great tools around now to help us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, you couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But today we can.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that gets me all fired up because how do we get better at saying no?
Mm.
So I'm always telling people, you gotta get really good at building, wake up. You're not going to be here forever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who you are? I mean, really.
Mm-hmm.
People can say, yeah, and they can be convincing, and they've only scratched the surface of really knowing who they are.
Mm-hmm.
To be great, you've got to get in there and dig into all of who you are. Unearth stuff you don't actually want to unearth.
Mm-hmm.
Spend the time looking in the mirror, being a little bit bored and working on your blemishes. You said we have to get comfortable on the plateau. I call that marrying the mundane.
Mm-hmm.
We got to do it.
Yeah.
Most people don't. Most people don't want to marry the mundane.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get better at saying no? Again, this is another one out of Good to Great. So there were two things: the opening line.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's one other thing Collins put out that I haven't forgotten,
Mm-hmm.
and that was, he said everybody's got their to-do list,
Mm-hmm.
which I hate to-do lists. Do you like to-do lists?
I do.
Oh, I hate them.
Why do you hate them? Just tell me that for a second.
In my mind, I know what I want to do. And to-do lists in my mind means somebody else is imposing them on me, because I don't impose them on me. I just know what I know what I've structured to do.
Mm.
I've already built that. That's my core, my opus, my pop, that's all there. So when I ever think of a to-do, it's something somebody else is trying to get me to do.
No, that's not my to-do list.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So the words mean different things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually, in the reminders app. And that's sort of what I use it for, is to remind me of the things that I want to do. And also I use it, actually, I learned this through Atomic Habits, James Clear's book. I get a little dopamine hit every time I check something off my list. So on my to-do list, the first things on my to-do list are meditate, breathe, gratitude, right? Things I know I need to do.
Yeah.
But I like the feeling of checking it off the list every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's good. I got it.
Okay.
So Collins' book, he talks about, we all have those to-do lists, and you love them. I love them.
All right.
But I see your point.
Yeah.
I hope you see mine, maybe slightly.
Yeah, I do.
It's more like a honeydew or somebody else telling you to do like that.
Yeah, that's
I just spike at that.
No bueno. Yeah,
no bueno.
Yeah.
But Colin says, okay, if you're going to be a great leader, a level 5 leader, as he describes, the epitome of leadership, to get there, you need to develop a stop doing list. And he said, man, like very few people have that. And how does one go about, if we're going to say we got to get better at living who we are, core, opus, pop, disciplined, and then the world is full of distractions, and we're more prone to distraction than ever before in the history of humanity. So I guess you could add a discipline of stop doing to your pop. What do you want to stop doing so you can really zone in and master your craft? Master being a good man, a good husband, a good wife, spouse, whatever. Do you have a stop doing list?
It's funny. I think it was Arthur Brooks. I can't remember if it was in his latest book or where I heard this, but he calls it a reverse bucket list, which is a little bit different, but basically it's like all the things that you like are chasing, these big aspirational things, just get them off your list.
Right.
If they come, they come. Do I don't have a list that I like write down and look at of things not to do. But I guess I feel like I'm a little bit in your camp on the to-do list with the not to-do list, in that like I just know what I can't do. Yeah. And I don't do it.
Give me a couple. What are a couple of BKs of the athletes stop doing? And you've already made your piece and they're off. What are those? I know a few of yours.
Of mine? Well, here's the latest one, which we haven't talked about, but I've decided to stop being in the middle on things, and to have picked a path and just commit to that path.
I think that's a great one.
Yeah. That's been a big one for me.
In work and life, both?
Both.
So stop this constant churn of options.
Yeah. And it's not like a forever thing.
No, but it's such a good one.
Yeah.
That is such a good one. Let's think about that. Why is that a big deal to stop churning options? Why is that a big deal for you?
It's a big deal for me because I've found that it's impossible to really do anything if you haven't committed to doing it. At least do it at a high level. Kind of like you were saying before, I think you might even be able to do it well, but it's not going to be great. Yeah. If in the back of your mind or every time something gets hard, you think that you should have gone the other option, or that you might want to go the other option. It's really impossible to fully be present and give yourself to your work or your life if you haven't, chosen that that's what you want to be doing, and not wanting to be doing anything else. Yeah.
So true. So I love words. So one of your things you said is to stop constantly churning options. Right? The Latin word for decision, do you remember this one? We've talked about this.
I'm sure I will when you tell me. But
it's decidere. Is the word we get the English word decision. The Latin word decidere, when you translate it, it doesn't translate to decision. It translates to cut off. Decisions mean we cut off options, which is why decisions are so infrequent today and so needed. Like we need to be more decisive as people. Okay, distractions keep us with options open, chasing all this other stuff. We have, I mean, if you look at just the commitment level in our modern country compared to like our parents, well, my parents, back at the Greatest Generation, the commitment level, the amount of decisions where they just cut off options, they were so quick to do it. And then you look at my children, they're so slow to do it. I'm somewhere in the middle. And I will talk to like my kids and other young people about like, hey, it seems to me like you need to commit to this. You know, like I'm listening to you and why aren't you doing that? And they're like, well, I'm going to keep my options open. You heard that a lot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And if we go back to like the history, so decidere, the Latin word means to cut off. If we go back to the most predominant wiring in our evolutionary brain, it is loss aversion. We're most wired as humans. It's been passed down for eons to avoid a loss. Every decision you make is a loss in the brain. Do you see that? Isn't that, to me, that's fascinating? Am I geeking out a little too much?
No, it's cool.
To me, I'm like going, shit, that's the problem, right? We didn't used to have so many options. So we were quicker to make decisions and make commitments, and we probably were a lot more satisfied and happy because we didn't constantly say, well, I could have done that. I could do this, because there weren't that many options. Now we have the abundance of choice. There's so much time that we get like all up in a ball. Like, well, I don't want to commit yet because there's still some, I'm going to keep my options open.
Yeah. Interesting. I think it's a big one. And
so that stop doing you just described.
Yeah.
What is the answer so the stop doing, I'm going to stop keeping all my options open. And in essence, when people love to think about what am I going to start doing? I'm going to start picking a path. That's what you said.
Yeah.
I love that. How hard is that? How hard is that?
Well, I think it's like a lot of things. It's pretty simple. It's not easy, right? You know, I mean, it was hard for me. Right. But in reality, it's like a lot of things that you and I have been through together where in hindsight, it was like, why did it take so long?
I know.
Right.
So in other words, it's hard to start.
Yeah.
To start building that habit, that atomic habit, if you will. Yeah. Of being more decisive. It's just hard when we start to wire it up. Right. But once you get that myelin wrapped around that being more decisive and not chasing the bright objects, it gets a little bit easier, a little bit easier, a little bit easier. And before you know it, you're making decidere after decidere, and they don't even feel like decideres.
How about you? What anything that you've put on your not do list recently?
I don't think recently, but one that continues to be on there is, and it's such an obvious one, is just stop comparing. I can get all balled up about the work I'm doing, the life I'm living, and compare it to somebody who I go like, what in the world? Like, that guy's he's not done much. You know what I mean? And I like, how in the world could somebody say, well, they will, I'll get put off by somebody comparing me to somebody. I'm like, please don't do that. You know what I mean? But what am I doing? I'm actually comparing myself to that dude. And I'm like, why? And then I get bent, I get anxious, I get upset. And I'm like, what in the world, Chet? That is such a you problem, not the other person's problem. And so I'm just like, I've gotten much better at just comparing me to me, period. And just working on that and not looking around at the others and going, well, I'm better than that. Or I don't know why they're getting this. I should be. I'm like, what are you doing? Okay, stop comparing. Just a waste of psychic energy. And that's been, I think it's rooted in pride, which is my biggest problem. And it has been since I was a kid. And so I'm always just like, humble yourself. Stop that. That's wasted energy. And let them live.